Modern marketing changes fast, and great marketers need an edge. Marketers from challenger brands need to be especially brave. This season, all our guests are from challenger brands. Join us as they unveil the strategies and tactics behind the risks that they've taken. They'll talk about the biggest, boldest marketing campaigns that got their brand noticed and made an impact in the industry. Hosted by Brave Software and me, Donnie DeVoren, head of sales at Brave. Join me to get fresh, new perspectives and the inspiration to say yes to brave marketing moments. So with that intro, we're doing something different. We're doing a live audience. And today we're speaking to two amazing marketers. One is Mariana Fonseca. Mariana is the Vice President of Digital Experience and Loyalty at Virgin Voyages. So we're talking to Virgin today, the cruise ships. And Mariana oversees the teams that curates irresistible digital journeys for its sailors on web, on app, on digital properties. And she works across different teams to drive brand loyalty by leveraging all the customer touchpoints and experiences. And before Virgin, she had spent 10 years at American Airlines, so she knows the travel industry quite well. And she was in different positions, not only as marketing, she was in finance and alliances, planning, and even product management. And we're also special because we usually just interview one person, but this is another way that we're doing something special. We're talking to Justin Terry. And Justin serves as the Senior Director of Growth at Virgin Voyages. In this role, he leads a team responsible for introducing the world to Virgin's new cruise brand and driving growth through a data-driven, sailor-centric, and fun approach to paid media, organic social, partnerships, and brand work. So we're really excited to talk to both of you, but before we go there, we have to do one thing. We have to do our pick of the week. So every episode, we choose a brand that has run an ad campaign with Brave. And today we're talking to Near Protocol. And just so if anybody doesn't know Near, think of them as Ethereum, Solana, Layer 1. They're a blockchain designed to be fast, secure, and scalable. And they've run the gamut with us. They've run sponsored images, push notifications, Brave News. And their goal was to increase awareness and to educate the masses about Near and what makes it unique Layer 1 POS and their open community. And the results were fabulous. 13% click-through rates on the push, 4% click-through rates on the other units, and we usually average 9% on the push and 1% on the other units, so they crushed it. So, with no further ado, here is now this week's episode of The Brave Marketer. Why don't we just start really broad? And I think everybody knows the Virgin brand. Many people may not be familiar with all the different subsidiaries, and maybe for the older folks, you may remember Virgin Records. But can I have a volunteer, Mariana or Justin, take us through the current Virgin brands, the size of them, and then how the Voyages kind of fit in through the whole portfolio?
Oof, we would need a full episode to go over that portfolio, Donnie. But
quick Cliff Notes
I'll
version.
give you the highlights, though. So as you know, we have the Virgin Group, who owns the brand agreement for the majority of any Virgin brand, actually for all of the Virgin brands. And our key market is the UK. So where you will see the largest concentration of Virgin brands is going to be in the UK, where you see Virgin Atlantic, obviously, that beautiful airline that travels the world. You have Virgin Money, which is a banking. You have Virgin Holidays, which is also another travel brand. And then within you have a long tail, Virgin Media, Virgin Music, many other brands within the UK family. In the US, you see some of the newer brands. So you see Virgin Galactic, which has hit the news quite heavily. You have Hyperloop, which is based out of LA, and they're working to design a Hyperloop process. And then, of course, you have Virgin Voyages and Virgin Hotels also launching hotels throughout the country. We do have Virgin Australia, and then we have some other properties in other parts of the world, but maybe not as big.
Got it. And tell us about the boats. How many are there? What makes them unique? I know they're adults only. Can you go into the Voyages a bit more?
Sure. The ships are amazing. Right now we have one ship on the water, Scarlet Lady, and she is just fabulous. Very different to other ships out in the water. It's a medium-sized ship, holds about 2,700 sailors, And what's different about it is you mentioned one is definitely adults only, adults by design, 18 plus. So that allows us to have a very different value proposition and very different entertainment and options on board for our sailors. I would say the key differences are we blew up a lot of things by listening to what sailors wanted when they traveled. One of the normal or legacy cruise lines typically have a single restaurant. And I'm pretty sure, Donnie, that when you go on vacation, you do not want to eat at the same place every night, even if you pick a different thing from the menu. So we blew that up, and we have 6 main dining restaurants, essentially, that are all inclusive, and you get to pick every night where you want to go. And beyond those 6, we have smaller venues where you can get pizza or hamburgers or all-day breakfast. So from that perspective on the food is very unique. The other unique aspect, I would say, it's entertainment. We also heard from research that people don't want to go on a cruise ship to see Broadway shows that are watered down. They want to go to New York to see Broadway shows. So what we did is every entertainment on board the ship is bespoke to us. It's actually tailored to the venue and the audience, so it's very unique and wonderful, if you ask me. And then I would say the third big differentiator is our approach to how we go to port. Typically on a cruise ship, you have to rush back to the ship at 4 p.m., so you really don't get to explore the city. We have very late night stays, and in many cases we have overnights. Because honestly, if you're going to Mykonos or Ibiza, you want to explore an overnight situation there. So very unique itineraries for us as well. And I could go on, but I would say those are the 3 main ones.
Got it. And how long has that ship been sailing?
Scarlet kicked off in August 2021 this year, so essentially 4 months. We're brand new.
So what's it been like to launch a ship during COVID when, probably cruising was one of the hardest industries hit at the beginning? What's that been like?
I want us to talk about the brand awareness perspective as well, because we're on that journey. But I would say operationally even, it took a little bit of a pivot for us to be able to, for example, we were going to launch out of the U.S., and then the U.S. with the CDC guidelines was a little bit more difficult for us to do that. So within a matter of months, literally in April, we decided that in August we were going to change our strategy and launch out of the UK. So it's taken a significant amount of flexibility and resilience from our team to be able to find those opportunities where available. We had fabulous activations that we attached, because of the traditional way of doing things, of putting a product out in the market and expecting people to buy travel, especially for cruising, where there's been so much negative connotation around it, wasn't working. It's been exhausting, but exhilarating at the same time.
Got it. So Justin, why don't we switch over to you? What's the most exciting thing that you're working on right now?
Well, we're kind of going through like a relaunch phase where we've done a lot of work. The company's been around for quite a few years, but a couple of stalled launches over the way just due to the nature of the pandemic and things like that. So we've had a couple of bumps, and now that we're relaunching in a new context, and there are certain consumer habits that have changed, and there's a lot of attitudes and behaviors that have changed, and we have to act accordingly in that context. So the most exciting thing, though, is when we're re-entering. People are coming back, things are happening, people want to get back to liveliness and feeling like that full sense of life. They're going on adventures again, people are moving around, and so there's still that apprehension you deal with while people are going. They want to be safe and they want to feel secure where they're going, that it's a safe place for them, that their health is going to be considered and well accounted for, but at the same time, people are ready to let loose. And to be working here during that moment in time, we've had now a couple sales, it's been a couple months, and seeing people on the ship, seeing how they're reacting to it, seeing them, like we have a lot of great safety protocols, and we test the terminals, and we have vaccinations, and there's a lot of things that we do to ensure that safety, which allows people to feel more comfortable, to let a little looser, to interact with people in different ways, to interact with our crew and our happenings crew in just a more relaxing, powerful way so they can just have a good time. So it's just the privilege of working with such an incredible group of humans to go ahead and bring that product to market and bring it to people at a time where it really speaks to what they're yearning for, which is a rare moment in time. Joining during a pandemic is an interesting thing. Joining a cruise line in the midst of all that, it's a challenge, and we have a lot of things to overcome. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. We're just so excited to relaunch the brand, bring it to people, and really show people what the product is, who we are as a brand, because we have those associations with Virgin, but we're our own distinct animal. Even within that big umbrella, we have a lot of connectivity with our brothers and sisters in the Virgin group at large, but we definitely have our own take into how we do things as well.
Got it. So You know, the whole genesis of the podcast is a brave marketing moment. And I think yours is the new brand campaign that you just spoke about. Is there something specific that you want to mention or talk about that made it, where you took a specific risk that made it risky with that new brand campaign?
Yeah, I think risk is just in the DNA of this place. I think the way we've approached it, working with our investors, with our executive teams, we take chances on things, how we speak to things, the experiences on the ship. There's a lot of aspects to the way we cruise. We have a voyage, right? Like we speak about it in that way. And so there's definitely some specific risks around how do we go about saying that? Like there's a lot of ways to frame how we approach the market. And some of the riskier things are moving fast, which is just associated with risk, where we have to make some really quick decisions, who we work with, what are the decisions we make, how do we go to market, who do we talk to, where as well. And I think it's something interesting. We come into an industry with a lot of legacy competitors who have been around for quite some time. They've been approaching the market and have fairly well-established positions in that market. And we don't. And so I think risk is basically built in the brand campaign in particular and just the brand in general. The work we do, Mariana and the web team and the onboard team and the crew, like we all take these risks in terms of the types of entertainment we bring on the ship, the types of ways we engage with people. But being bold, because we are that upstart in this industry that has been around for a while with very entrenched competitors, we have to take chances because there is always a risk that this industry has been around for quite some time. There are a lot of preconceived notions, and how we speak to that market has some inherent risk when we come forth as who we are. We're a new entrant and something very different for people. And I think there's always a risk with difference. Whenever you kind of introduce something and try to breathe new life into an industry, there's that excitement, but at the same time, there's that balance of fear and apprehension that's out there. We just finally are sailing now, but our competitors have been around for a very long time. And given the current market conditions, we were really diligent about trying to find when and where, like the market returning and like people coming back to cruising. So yeah, risk is built into basically every day here, and we are encouraged to do that as well. We encourage each other to do that. And I think what the biggest part about it is having this of the team, the people you're working with, your investors, the executives across the board. That support helps create a culture where risk is welcome. There's accountability always, but it's encouraged, and we take some of these shots and they work. I mean, we just launched our ship in the US and we parked in September in New York and threw a huge event with celebrities, and we have our investors and we have musical acts. We had Major Lazer there. We had Trixie Mattel. We're inviting people to come dine on the ship at a moment in time. People were still just getting used to coming back and experiencing the world in that way. And we took a risk. There's a lot of cost. There's a lot of labor and crew and 1,000 people that work on that thing that have to make that floating city, this incredible thing, come to life. And you take a risk on that, but it was incredible. And so ever since that moment where you take the risk and say, how do we go about launching this brand? We said, we're going to do a big moment. We're going to park it in New York. We're going to throw a party. We're going to show people who we are and just be who we are. And the payoff is, we doubled bookings after that, right? It's super risky because it's also coming to New York where there's still like a lot of protocols in place. We put together excessively even stringent COVID precautions that we took, and we worked with Clear, and we had testing to get on board in the terminal. There's so many things, but I think the most important part is just that willingness, that support, because it takes an entire organization to do mostly anything that we do across the board, from shipside, shoreside, and when you're aligned on it, that's when it comes together. Lots of risk.
Yeah, I would say Virgin Brands is known for being a disruptor, Donnie. So we are risk takers by nature, right? Like I just told you, 3 very different things that we were willing to go and bet on the fact that they were going to be different. Yeah, risk is not unknown to us. Risk is what we thrive on.
What were the elements of the brand campaign? You just talked about parking in New York. What else did you do to really get the name out?
There's a lot of components to it, and a lot of it is being really smart and tactical about like how we're approaching the market. Where do you show up? But what are those moments? Our social media team has done some pretty phenomenal work, and it's how we approach the market and who we are. I think because we're known as the upstart, we're scrappier, we're hungry, but also like we're exciting and energetic. And so that has to come through in a lot of the work that we do. And that comes through whether that's in our social feeds and our teams, just basically showing that experience, but also on the website, and where we're launching, we have Mermaiden sales. Those are our maiden voyages, and how we go about that, adding just so many flourishes. And I can let Mariana talk to how we do Mermaiden, which is just the attention to detail and like the focus of the group, but also just the focus on people And our job is to just make the most fun experience possible for people, and it's a pretty great job to have.
Let's take that one as a use case. I think it highlights one of the things that's critical to us, which is how we approach things collaboratively. We do not believe in isolated things that we do. There's not like a single social post. There's a couple of those things, but as it pertains to big initiatives, we work very closely together. Mermaiden Voyage is what we call our maiden voyages. Every ship has them. You slap a bottle of champagne against the ship, you call it a day. What we decided to do is we decided to turn it into a key brand moment. Mermaids are important to us. They're on the side of our ship. We name our ships around them, right? Scarlet Lady is a beautiful lady that you can see on the side of our ship. So we decided to coin our maiden voyages the Mermaiden Voyages. And what we did is we all coalesced around this beautiful activation of an event that was very traditional in cruising, but it turned it our own. We branded, we have a special field for it, we have a special creative around it, we have a beautiful photo shoot of mermaids across Miami and across our ship that we leverage in terms of creative, and then we activate and tell the world that it's happening. We call that sailing a Mermaiden Voyage. We have social media that supports it. We have special media banners that support it. We make sure that there's a web banner, that it is presented across the experience. So we carry that through. So it's not like an isolated thing that you have to search, but we actually coalesce around it. And it doesn't end, which is unique to us, it doesn't end when the sailing starts. It actually continues there, because one of the key success indicators of a Mermaiden Voyage for us is social shares. We want to make sure that everybody has FOMO, so that anybody that loves cruising will absolutely go to the next Mermaiden Voyage. So we do activations on board. We partner with the House of Yes. We turn you into a mermaid. We have mermaids on the pool. We have mermaids on the beach to take pictures with our sailors. We have special mermaid food that you can go and hunt around the ship. So we provide photo opportunities for people to share, and we all, again, coalesce around it in a very non-traditional way, because we have this component that some other brands do where we don't deliver a product to you in a moment of time. You actually live the product with us for a very long period of time. So we use and squeeze every moment that we can to make sure that we're creating that engagement with our sailors in a very unique way.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. So how do you keep in touch with the sailors after the voyage?
I'm not going to be shy about this. We are in the process of starting what is our retention and loyalty program. We did launch a program called Sea Blazers. So we wanted to encourage people to come and sail with us in 2021 when we knew it was a rocky year. It was a rocky year because there's still COVID risk. It was a rocky year because we're a brand new brand, so they had to bet on us. So we created the Sea Blazer program to incentivize people to come, to try this new product out, to be a Sea Blazer and adventurer. And it also gave us an opportunity to talk to them a little bit different, which is we asked for feedback. We did give them incentives, so they got special flag and they get some bar tab bonus for life. And they now belong to this founders club almost type of group. As we launch our loyalty program in the future, we will find different opportunities to do so. For now, we thank them for coming along with us. We keep them engaged. We follow them through their life cycle, but I think a lot of how do we talk to sailors after they voyage with us will be developed as part of our loyalty strategy later next year.
I want to make sure that we leave time for questions from the people that are joining live, but why don't I ask a question that came in from Corrali? So she asks, working across so many teams and with multiple digital tactics, how big a role does attribution modeling play in evaluating campaign performance?
We have a very holistic view on this. I think the greatest part about this too is we were talking about collaboration. Mariana's team, the digital experience side loyalty program, is that there's so many different touch points that we have to consider. And we think about in-market activity as well. So I run the growth team, which is mostly related more in-market activity, but also there's our PR team. There's this coordination. We know, like, I have a traditional, media background, which we like to look at the last click of something, and we like to give that a lot of, it's attribution is difficult in the post-cookie world or like near post-cookie world. It gets even more problematic. But what the important thing is for us is making sure that we know, like, it's intrinsic to who we are, that we understand that it is all the things that are combined that make it work. So when I know I get a search click coming in, but like we know our PR team has done these press releases. Sir Richard was just here with us. We have partnerships that are lifting those ships. We have programs on the website. We have the mermaiding experiences that people are sharing, and then people see those. It's making sure we take into account those things, and it's also integrated data systems. So we have analytics teams that sit across both Mariana's team and my team. They are interconnected. They work together. We use the same platforms. We use Tableau for some integrated dashboards. And so everyone can get visibility into that impact, but is also looking at it holistically. So when I pull apart and say, it's easy to silo. And so when you silo, you can say, how is media performing? How's this performing? And really, you have to look at all those things together, because the reality is we work a lot with, we call them first mates, but that's travel agents, and understanding the impact of the brand work we're doing and optimizations we're making to the website that are making their jobs easier, that all work together to make the best experience and to grow the business as much as possible. So it's more just having that mindset, constantly being pretty vigilant about it, and making sure it starts with leadership as well, and having agreement that this is how we do things. It is not anyone working in like their thing. Is success is seen as a team success, no matter what initiative we're working on. And I think having that as the foundation of what we do makes giving that attribution much easier, because it's a lot about communication and conversation. Talking about it, understanding what's happening when. So when I see a spike on the media side, it doesn't necessarily come from me. And if I'm not communicating with the rest of my team, then that's the case. And the same thing when I'm pushing a couple $1 million in market, and all of a sudden the web is exploding. If I'm not communicating that to the web team, we're going to have trouble there as well. So it's that back and forth that make it easier and just make it more engaging and fun to work with. We have a lot of smart things going on at any given time, so making sure we're giving the right attribution is a way to think about it, but just making sure the credit isn't taken, and that has implications. If you have one team taking credit for something, that means you're underfunding something else, and you're going to actually move resources to that thing if you don't look at it holistically. So we know that it's the totality of experience that matters.
I was going to say, as a fun fact, Donnie, we know that it takes about 30 days in consideration for someone to shop a cruise, because it is such a complex product that includes destination and hotel and the type of cabin you're doing and the excursions you may want to get. So if you take those 30 days into consideration, relying on something as a last click for attribution, it's really not productive, not especially when we're in big growth mode and PR is such a big part of the strategy. So I agree with everything Justin just said. We look at things more holistically, and we look at the macro indicators. There will be a point at which we would look at attribution more granularly, but at the stage that we are right now, it is just not as valuable.
Got it. So we have Jared that's joined us live. Jared, why don't you unmute yourself and please introduce yourself. Where do you work, and what is your question?
Hi guys, I'm Jared. I live in Squamish, Canada, which is a smallish mountain town near Vancouver. And I work for a company called Safe Doing, which is working on global products for remote workers. Been very interesting so far. Thanks for your time on the podcast. So the question I have for you is, early on, especially in COVID, some of the main outbreaks happened on cruises, and maybe that's changed people's views of cruises and whether they're safe. How have you layered that into some of the marketing that you've done, and what are some of the creative things you've done to try to reshape people's minds if you do think they've changed?
So we track that sentiment, Jared. You're spot on, right? As you saw more people, especially in cruise, one of the things you've got going on is that if something happens on one cruise line, everybody thinks poorly of every other cruise line, right? If there's an outbreak in a Hilton in your hometown, like nobody cares about that Marriott in that other town. But in cruise, it's very unique where we do get bad by association. So what we did, and this was before my time, and honestly before Justin's time, is the company was really proactive in launching what's called our Voyage Initiative, where we actually listen to sailors and their concerns, and then tailor what we're doing both operationally as well as how we're communicating to them in terms of keeping them safe. But it is all based on a survey that we do to our leads, a sentiment survey, where we ask what's important to them for their safety. And this voyage, I would say it is a campaign in a way, but it's this umbrella communication platform that we use. We carry even now as we're sailing to keep them informed of, we're going to test you at the terminal, we're going to make sure that you're vaccinated, this is what the protocols are on board the ship, but we've used it now under this umbrella campaign.
I think it's really an interesting thing we're even discussing now as we're coming out, and it's an evolving pandemic, and so we were launching Delta, all of a sudden hits, and so we still know it's something that's top of mind for folks, but as we're new and people don't know a lot about us, when we're working on building our awareness and just introducing the product to the world, having that messaging included in there, what is the balance between that? Because we're selling fun, incredible experiences, but there's something you cannot acknowledge that thing. And so it's really important as we bring that to market, how are we threading that through our messaging, but also not making it so like you can't have it gets real heavy real quick once you start addressing that kind of elephant in the room and acknowledging. But that's one of the biggest factors, the survey research that Mariana's talking about. Like we know it's popping for our people, but also one of the things we're trying to do too is we're speaking. There's a lot of cruisers that are going to be super interested in what we do, but we're made. It's not solely for cruisers. It's for people that just want to have an amazing holiday experience. And so there's a whole set of people that we're going to be speaking that don't necessarily have preconceived notions, have watched that documentary on HBO. And it's very much something I watched it before I came and worked here. So it's people will have that in their minds, but it's really how we reshore that Voyage Well program and making it sure it's easily navigable as people are going through their booking journey and they're just exploring the ship. Definitely incorporate it into how our presence in market, but it's very much deciding, figuring out that fine line where we're really accessing, don't worry, you're safe. But also you're safe, so now you can have a really great time. And it's a bit of a balance, but it's something that we address across every medium we have.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, thanks for coming on live, Jared. Now, we have a question that's actually asked by two different people. Lizzie submitted this earlier, and Coralie asked this question as well. Now, Justin, you talked about the brand strategy a lot and the branding. Now, the question that keeps on coming up is Virgin is such a well-known brand. Does that mean that you can spend more of your money on bottom of the funnel tactics because Virgin's already out there?
Yes, I mean, there is a halo effect. Virgin has that allure, even from just a career perspective. But also in the market, what Virgin is in the UK, what is in Canada is not what it is in Canada, is not what it is in the US. And what that brand halo is, the Virgin Atlantic approach and that disruptor approach is something that people are familiar with. They have expectations around us. And it's funny because there's lots of people that we talk to and we're branding to that don't necessarily have that notion. So we can't also assume that people know and understand. So when people come to the product, what our experience is and how we do cruising, what our voyages are, people sometimes push some preconceived notions just from the brand on us, and how do we live up to that when we're our own entity as well? We have our own approach to what we do. It's very much tethered the light, elevated, fun experiences that kind of Virgin is known for. But there's a lot of work being done. We work with a lot of the other VCOs, and Mariana and her team are doing a lot of work there with the loyalty programs, working with the expanded network. We get a lot of benefit from that. But that being said, we have to let sure people know who we are. It's utterly important. There's another thing too, where even in the UK, that's something we've been talking about quite a bit here. We're launching a ship in the UK, Valiant, in March. It's going to be amazing. The itineraries are beautiful, and we'll be around Ibiza and the Canary Islands. It's just phenomenal. But Virgin, it exists there. It's much more prevalent. It's ubiquitous. Sir Richard Branson. It carries that weight to it. But that being said, our approach to market, we're just a different animal where, what is our experience? How are we Virgin? There's a lot of different ways Virgin manifests itself in the world and how companies imbue those values and that culture on themselves. And we have our own unique style to it. It's marrying that too. I think we do get quite a bit of bump from it, but people aren't just going to come and just buy the product just because it's Virgin. It definitely gives us a lot of goodwill. And we get a lot of, probably quite a bit more than a lot of other companies will get because of the Virgin brand and because of our relationships there. But definitely it's more about the experience, and what really matters to people too is what does it feel like to be on the ship? How do those cultural things, how does it affect them? How does it change their experience and their enjoyment? And I'm sure Mariana probably has some good thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a two-way sword, right? Because yes, some people are like, oh, Virgin exists. So great, you guys just need to go and sell cruises. The reality is we also have to educate them that, yes, while Virgin exists, Virgin Voyages is a cruise company owned by Virgin. And we get those benefits by association, but a lot of the times we're like, Virgin Voyages? I thought they were just an airline, or I thought they were just sending rockets to space. So there is a level of training that needs to happen a little bit more on the awareness level, on the upper funnel, that Justin is very hard working at, making sure that people understand our value proposition. And then cruising is also a very unique segment, right? So the people that know about Virgin because they follow Hyperloop and they like all of the innovation side may not be the people who are looking for a cruise. So then there's a level of awareness teaching that has to happen for other cruises, right? People who are going on some of the competitor brands. So we get some value. We get more value in the UK than we get in the US, but there's still a level of education that needs to happen. So there's no freebie for us yet. We'll get it once we get the value of the network of the loyalty program.
So broader picture outside of Virgin, how do you think you would market this brand 10 years ago that's different than today? And how do you think you would market this brand in 10 years from now? Like just kind of big picture thinking.
Travel is a really interesting space, and cruises in particular, because the industry has a history of, we work a lot with travel agents, and they're a really important audience that we need to work with, and they have a lot of access to consumers, and they understand consumer needs on a different level that we do, but also the direct-to-consumer approach where a lot of people do their own research. And so a lot of people are coming directly to us and they want us to give that information to them. And so like even the nature of how people travel over time, making large scale purchases online has obviously been a growing thing culturally, but COVID obviously expedites that quite a bit, right? It elevates and amplifies the impact that's going to have, where people are definitely used to making these decisions on their own, going ahead and making those purchases and building their trust themselves and having way more control over that. So in 10 years from now, like that might change as well. I mean, the context too is our messaging has to be adaptive. We have to, you were just talking about how do we talk about that and kind of bridge that with just talking about what the product is and what the brand is, but also acknowledging the context of this situation. In 10 years, hopefully I'm never talking about COVID or safety protocols in the way that I'm talking about them now. And it's more an acknowledgement of that, but it's a lot based in like, we use a lot of research and data to make decisions around here. The nice part about being a startup, some of our competitors, they have existing systems going about things. So how do we market now? 10 years ago, we would have had a very different data infrastructure than we have now, and we'll have a very different one in 10 years.
Yeah, I would add that travel is a different animal. We're not selling a mattress where you likely either go to a mattress store or buy a mattress online. If you were asking this about mattresses 10 years ago, you went into a mattress store. Now you do a lot of online and get a box outside of your house. 10 years from now, I don't know, whatever the next evolution, you push a button in your house and a mattress appears. Travel is very unique because 10 years ago, the majority of cruise bookings were happening via travel agents. You were calling someone up, you were receiving a brochure, you were going to your local travel agent and sitting down at their desk probably still and talking to them because cruise is such a complex purchase. So then 10 years ago, Justin would have had to put a billboard out there because we need the travel agents to know about the product. We would be very deep in B2B, and that would be the bulk of our investment. Now, a lot of people are gravitating to direct. We've made the booking experience for travel, not to toot my own horn, but it's a lot easier to book a cruise online today than it was 10 years ago. There's a lot of more investments and diversification. Yes, we still love our travel agents and we care for them, but we're also doing a lot in the direct-to-consumer space and we're talking to you directly. And because of the situation we are right now, we're leveraging activations. And because we're a new brand, we're getting people on the ship. So the event that Justin talked about in New York and Miami, that pays in spades. Because when they see the experience, they don't want to get off the ship. We had 2 back-to-back events in New York. The people that came on day 1, they're like, I want to come back on day 2, and we were sold out, and they couldn't. So we have to leverage the hard product to be able to drive that message across. 10 years from now, there may be a boomerang. People like to be handheld for certain purchases. So maybe we are investing in people getting the word out. Maybe it's more experiential because people are sick of digital. I think rather than speculating what's happening 10 years from now, it's more always being ready to listen to the sailors and seeing how people are purchasing and adjusting our strategy based on that, because we know that at that moment, that's what's working.
Yeah. I guess the last question for you, and you just touched on it, what makes a bold marketer?
A listener, in my opinion. Number 1, skill number 1, be a listener. Because the old stuff doesn't work anymore and it will not work tomorrow. So I'll give you the example again, but we know that people like to come on board the cruise to see the ship, and that drives people's willingness to buy the product more than anything else. Justin touched about our exciting next year, which is we're launching not 1, but 2 new ships. 1 out of Portsmouth, then Barcelona, then Miami, and 1 out of Athens, and then San Juan. And what we're doing is at every opportunity when that ship hits a new port, we are trying to get people on board. Come for the day, have dinner on the ship, right? We couple that with PR. We couple that with getting special guests. We go to our friends in the Virgin family and bring them on board as well and get their top customers on board with them. So we're looking for this very unique. I think being brave means listen, draw outside the lines, be willing to disrupt what was a maybe more traditional model and see what sticks. Try a lot of things.
Got it. Love it. So why don't we pause there? Where can our audience get in touch with both of you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, and I am very responsive there. I am pretty active on LinkedIn. So they'll find me under Mariana Fonseca Medina because I am from Mexico. So, of course, I have a gazillion names. So they are happy to find me there. And they can find more information about Virgin on our beautiful site, virginvoyages.com, or our amazing social media. That team is doing some seriously amazing work as well.
And same here. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. Mostly you can find us, me at our offices in Plantation. I'm here quite a bit, but I would say come find me on the ship because I'll be there next week with Mariana and a lot of our other colleagues and a bunch of happy sailors. We spend a lot of time in there. A lot of work gets done on the ship, surprisingly, but also a lot of fun. Yeah, you can find us floating around the Mediterranean next year.
On that note, thank you so much for coming on. And that is a wrap of our Brave Marketer episode for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donnie.
Absolutely. Thank you, Donnie, for having us.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Brave Marketer podcast. I have a question for you. Do you want to stay on top of everything that's going on with Brave Ads? Are you a marketer? Do you want to know about our new product launches? Do you want to know about marketing in a cookieless world? Do you want exclusive content and industry insights? Well, there's a very, very easy way to do that. And that's signing up for our Brave Ads Insider newsletter. And you can do that at brave.com/ad news. Again, that's brave.com/ADNEWS. And one other special treat for you listeners. Do you want some Brave swag? Some free Brave swag? Well, if you do, just do two things. Write us a review on Apple Podcasts, and then just tell us that you wrote us a review so we know. Add sales@brave.com. So again, we're going to send you swag. All you got to do is write a review and email us at adsales@brave.com. And finally, musical credits go to my older brother Ari, and special thanks to Sam and Shez for all their amazing production work. And until next time,